When my son told me he'd stolen millions from his clients, I collapsed right there in our kitchen. Days later, I was signing away my retirement savings to help pay for his lawyer. That's when I realized family loyalty is like quicksand. The harder you fight to save someone, the deeper you sink. If you're watching this, please hit subscribe and leave a comment telling me what you would have done in my shoes. Because trust me, this story is about to take more twists than a mountain road in a thunderstorm. I never thought my life would turn into the kind of scandal people whisper about at the grocery store. My name's Ellen Cooper, and until 6 months ago, I was just your average 58-year-old widow living in Westfield. My husband Thomas passed 3 years ago, leaving me comfortable but not wealthy. I had my book club on Thursdays, volunteer work at the animal shelter on weekends, and Sunday dinners with my son Michael and his girlfriend Vanessa. Michael was my pride and joy, handsome, smart, and successful. At 32, he was already a senior investment advisor at Meridian Financial Group. The kind of son who still called his mother every other day and brought expensive wine to dinner. I bragged about him constantly. "Your Michael's doing so well," my friends would say. "You raised him right, Ellen." How could I have known it was all built on lies? It was a Tuesday morning when my doorbell rang. 2 men in dark suits stood on my porch, badges in hand. "Mrs. Cooper? I'm Agent Wilson with the FBI. This is Agent Renner. We need to ask you some questions about your son, Michael Cooper." My coffee mug slipped from my hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. "There must be some mistake," I stammered, even as they showed me a warrant. For 3 hours, they questioned me about Michael's finances, his clients, his travels, his associates. Words like securities fraud, Ponzi scheme, and wire fraud floated through my living room like poison. Script part separator . They left me with a business card and the smoking ruins of my perfect life. I called Michael 17 times. No answer. My hand shook so badly, I could barely dial. When he finally showed up at my door that evening, I barely recognized him. His designer suit was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. "Mom," he whispered, collapsing into my arms like he used to do as a little boy after scraping his knee. "I'm in trouble." We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd helped him with math homework and celebrated birthdays, while he confessed everything. How it started small, borrowing from one client to cover another's investment. How it spiraled when the market turned. How he'd falsified statements and created phantom returns. "How much?" I asked, my voice sounding strange and distant. $4. "7 million, he said. The room spun. "Michael, that's not possible. You couldn't." "I did." His voice cracked. "The FBI froze everything this morning. They're charging me tomorrow." "Your clients," I whispered, thinking of all those people who trusted my son with their life savings. "Mrs. Abernathy, from church. The Wilsons. Your father's old partner." "I know," he shouted, slamming his fist down. "Don't you think I know? I was going to fix it. I just needed more time." The next morning, I watched my son being led away in handcuffs. It made the front page of the local paper. Cooper's financial fraud scheme collapses. His face, my last name, our shame, all there in black and white. The phone started ringing immediately. Reporters. Former friends. Victims. "Did you know?" Mrs. Abernathy sobbed over the phone. "Ellen, we lost everything. Our retirement, the money for John's medication." I couldn't answer. What could I possibly say? Bail was set at $500,000. Even selling my house wouldn't cover it. "We need a good attorney," I told Michael through the glass partition at the detention center. "Someone who specializes in these cases." "Mom, I can't afford." "I'll handle it," I said firmly. That afternoon, I withdrew my entire retirement fund, $212,000, and made an appointment with the best white-collar crime attorney in the state, Nathan Goldberg. Script part separator . His office was in a glass high-rise downtown, the kind of place where the elevators have no buttons because they know which floor you belong on before you step inside. "Mrs. Cooper," Goldberg said, not bothering to stand as I entered his office. "Let me be clear about something before we begin. Your son is looking at 15 to 20 years in federal prison. I gripped my purse so tightly my knuckles turned white. But he's never been in trouble before. Shirley, this isn't shoplifting, Mrs. Cooper. Your son stole millions from people who trusted him. The prosecutor will want blood. He leaned forward. My retainer is $100,000. If you can't afford it, there's no shame in court-appointed counsel. I slid the cashier's check across his desk. I can afford it. His eyebrows rose slightly. Very well. Let's talk strategy. 2 hours and a mountain of legal jargon later, I emerged with $112,000 less in my account and very little hope. The evidence against Michael was overwhelming. The best we could do was plead for a reduced sentence. When I got home, I found Vanessa sitting on my porch steps. Ellen, she said, eyes red-rimmed. I'm sorry to show up like this. I motioned her inside, too exhausted for niceties. You've heard then. She nodded, twisting her engagement ring, the 3-carat diamond Michael had bought her last Christmas. A ring that suddenly made me wonder about its origins. Did you know? I asked bluntly. No. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I svär, Ellen. I thought we were just doing well. Michael always said his investments were paying off. I wanted to believe her. But doubt had taken root in my heart, sending tendrils of suspicion around everything I thought I knew. The police questioned me for hours, she continued. They froze our accounts. I can't even pay next month's rent. What about your savings? Your job at the gallery? She looked away. I quit last year. Michael said I didn't need to work anymore. I poured us both a glass of wine, wondering when my life had turned into a bad TV movie. You can stay in the guest room, I offered, though every fiber of my being wanted to be alone with my grief. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Thomas. What would he have done? He'd always been the moral compass in our family, the one who taught Michael right from wrong. Had I failed them both somehow after he died? The next morning, I was making coffee when the doorbell rang again. This time, it was my mother, Margaret, looking as formidable at 78 as she had at 58. I read the paper, she said, brushing past me. Where is he? Script part separator equals. In the county jail, I answered, pouring her a cup. Mom, I don't need a lecture right now. She set her purse down with a thud. Did I say I was here to lecture? I'm here to help. I nearly dropped the coffee pot. You? Help? The woman who told me I was throwing my life away when I married Thomas? Who barely acknowledged Michael's existence for the first 10 years of his life. Family is family, she said simply. Now, tell me everything. Over the next hour, I laid it all out, the fraud, the arrest, the victims, the money I'd spent on the lawyer. She listened without interruption, her face unreadable. You've always been too soft on that boy, she said finally. Mom. But he's still my grandson. She reached into her purse and pulled out a checkbook. How much do you need? I stared at her in disbelief. What? For bail. Legal fees. Whatever else. I can't take your money. Don't be ridiculous, Ellen. She started writing. Michael made his bed, but we can at least make sure he gets a fair trial. The check she handed me was for $300,000. Mom, where did you even get this kind of money? She smiled thinly. Your father wasn't the only one who knew how to invest. I've done quite well for myself. I felt like I was seeing my mother clearly for the first time in decades. Who are you? Someone who doesn't abandon family, no matter how foolish they've been, she replied. Now, let's go get my grandson out of jail. That afternoon, Michael walked out of the detention center, looking shell-shocked when he saw his grandmother waiting beside me. You came, he whispered. She didn't hug him. Don't thank me yet. We're going to fix this, but there will be conditions. Starting with the truth. All of it. Script part separator equals. Michael slumped in my kitchen chair, the same one where he'd sat as a boy with chocolate milk mustaches and scraped knees. Now he was a grown man facing prison time. I didn't start out to steal, he said, voice cracking. It began with Jeffries. Martin Jeffries? I asked, recalling the slick businessman who'd been at Michael's college graduation. Your mentor? He approached me last year. Said he had a client who needed a short-term loan but couldn't go through normal channels. The interest was huge. We'd all make money. Michael ran his hand through his hair. Then another client needed help. Then another. My mother's eyes narrowed. And the money? Offshore accounts, he whispered. Once it started, I couldn't stop. Jeffries kept bringing more people in. I felt sick. So Martin Jeffries is behind this? Michael laughed bitterly. He claims he knew nothing. Says I acted alone. The next day, the prosecutor called our attorney. They had a witness willing to testify that Michael had masterminded everything. Someone from inside Meridian Financial. It's Patricia Weber, Michael said when I told him. My assistant. She's always been jealous. Stop lying. My mother's voice cracked like a whip. I'm not spending my money to defend a liar. Michael's face crumbled. Grandma, please. The truth. Now. Tears streamed down his face. Jeffries has evidence against me. Photos from a company retreat. I was with someone I shouldn't have been. He said if I didn't help him, he'd send them to Vanessa. Blackmail? I whispered. That doesn't excuse stealing millions, my mother said coldly. I know. Michael hung his head. But once I started, Jeffries kept pushing for more. Said we were too deep to back out. Then the market crashed and I couldn't cover everyone. It all fell apart. My phone rang, Goldberg with news. The FBI had raided Jeffries' home and found encrypted files with all the victims' information. They're bringing him in, Goldberg said. This changes everything. Hope flickered, but I knew better than to trust it. My son had still committed crimes, regardless of who pushed him into them. My mother stood suddenly. I'm making calls. I still know people at the district attorney's office. Mom, you can't interfere. She silenced me with a look. I'm not interfering. I'm making sure Jeffries doesn't slither away while Michael takes the fall. As she left the room, Michael turned to me. Why is she helping me? She's always hated me. I took his hand. She doesn't hate you. She's just never known how to love properly. That night, as I washed dishes, Vanessa appeared in the doorway. Ellen, I need to tell you something. Script part separator . Her eyes were rimmed red, hands trembling as she gripped a manila folder. What is it? I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. I found these in Michael's home office. She slid the folder across the counter, behind the false back of his filing cabinet. With shaking hands, I opened it to find bank statements, passport copies, and property deeds, all in the name of James Mitchell. But the photo was unmistakably Michael. He has another identity, Vanessa whispered. And an apartment in Buenos Aires. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. My son wasn't just a thief. He'd been planning his escape. Have you shown this to anyone else? I asked, my voice barely audible. She shook her head. I don't know what to do. I love him, but he was going to leave you behind, I finished. Tears spilled down her cheeks. There's more. Last month, he asked me to transfer my inheritance from my grandmother into a joint account. Said we needed it for wedding expenses. How much? $300,000. She covered her face. It's gone, Ellen. All of it. I felt the last piece of my maternal delusion shatter. Michael hadn't been blackmailed into a mistake. He was a calculated predator who'd stolen not just from strangers, but from the woman he claimed to love. We need to tell Goldberg, I said finally. Tell me what? We both jumped. My mother stood in the doorway, eyes sharp as flint. When we showed her the documents, she didn't look surprised, just disappointed. So, she said quietly, he was planning to run. Script part separator . I swallowed hard. It looks that way. The three of us sat at my kitchen table in silence. The evidence of Michael's true character spread before us like a grotesque family album. He lied to us all, Vanessa whispered. My mother's face was stone. Ellen, you need to decide where your loyalty lies, with the truth or with your son's deception. I stared at her, aghast. He's my child, and you raised him to know right from wrong. She tapped the folder with one manicured finger. This isn't the action of someone who made a mistake. This is calculated. Deep down, I knew she was right. The Michael I thought I knew was a fabrication, a mask he wore to hide his true self. Yet the memory of him as a little boy with skinned knees and gap-toothed smiles made it impossible to simply turn him in. If we show this to Goldberg, what happens? I asked. He'll withdraw as counsel, my mother said bluntly. No lawyer wants a client planning to flee the country. And if we don't? Vanessa asked. My mother's eyes met mine. Then we become accomplices. The weight of that word, accomplices, settled over us like a shroud. Was I willing to sacrifice my own integrity to protect a son who had been ready to abandon me? The doorbell shattered our silence. Through the peephole, I saw Martin Jeffries himself standing on my porch. Script part separator . I opened the door with my heart hammering against my ribs. Martin Jeffries stood there in an expensive suit, his silver hair perfectly styled, looking more like a senator than a criminal. Mrs. Cooper, he said smoothly, may I come in? I believe we have matters to discuss. My mother appeared at my shoulder. You have some nerve showing up here. His smile never faltered. Margaret Wilson. It's been, 30 years? You haven't aged a day. They knew each other? I looked between them in confusion as my mother's face hardened. Save the charm, Martin. What do you want? 5 minutes of your time. His eyes flicked to the folder on the counter. I see you've found Michael's exit strategy. Sloppy of him to leave that where it could be found. Vanessa stepped forward. You knew about this? My dear, I arranged it. He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. Your fiancé isn't exactly a criminal mastermind. He needed guidance. I felt sick. You used my son. We used each other, Ellen. May I call you Ellen? He settled into a chair at my kitchen table like he belonged there. Michael wanted money. I needed someone with client access. It was a mutually beneficial arrangement until he got greedy. Greedy? I nearly choked on the word. The Buenos Aires property was supposed to be our shared safe house. The offshore accounts were to be split 50-50. His smile turned cold. But Michael decided to divert additional funds to accounts only he could access. He betrayed me. My mother laughed bitterly. The honor among thieves. Precisely. Jeffries nodded. Which brings me to why I'm here. The FBI is closing in, but I have an escape plan. One last flight out tomorrow night. And you're telling us this why? I asked. Because I'm offering you a choice, Ellen. Help me disappear, and I'll ensure the prosecutors know Michael was merely following orders. He'll serve 5 years, maybe less. His eyes gleamed. Or refuse, and I'll make sure he takes the fall for everything. Script part separator . My mother stepped forward, her eyes flashing dangerously. Get out of my daughter's house, Martin. Before I call the FBI myself. Jeffries didn't move. You're not thinking clearly. This is a limited time offer. What exactly do you want from us? Vanessa asked, her voice trembling. Simple. Ellen has a catering van for her volunteer work. I need it tonight, no questions asked, to transport certain items to a private airfield. He glanced at his watch. And I need Margaret to call her old friend Judge Wilson to ensure any emergency warrants get delayed until morning. I gasped. Do you want us to help you escape? That's insurance, he cut in smoothly. For your son's future. Think of it as a mother's sacrifice. My mother's laugh was cold. You haven't changed a bit, Martin. Still thinking you can manipulate everyone. It worked on Michael, he replied with a shrug. Something clicked in my brain. Wait. How did you know my mother's maiden name was Wilson? And that she knows Judge Wilson? A slow smile spread across his face. Margaret never told you? We were engaged once. Before she left me for your father. I turned to my mother in shock. What? Ancient history, she snapped, but her face had paled. Not so ancient, Jeffries said. Your mother's family and mine have crossed paths for decades. Why do you think I took such an interest in your son? Family tradition. The room spun around me. This wasn't just about Michael's crimes anymore. It was something deeper, older, a vendetta that had begun before I was even born. You targeted my son to get back at me? My mother whispered. I prefer to think of it as continuing our partnership, albeit through the next generation. He stood, straightening his tie. You have until midnight to decide. The van at the east parking lot of Riverside Mall. Keys under the mat. He walked to the door, then paused. Oh, and Ellen? Don't bother going to the authorities. I have insurance policies of my own, including some interesting information about Thomas's death that wasn't in the official report. The door closed behind him, leaving us in stunned silence. Mom? I turned to her.
What was he talking about?
What about Dad's death? Script part separator equals. Her face had gone ashen. Your father's heart attack. It wasn't entirely natural. I sank into a chair. What are you saying? Thomas discovered one of Martin's schemes years ago, money laundering through his construction company. She wrung her hands. He was going to report it, but before he could... Oh God, I whispered, memories flooding back. Dad complaining about dizziness the week before he died. The empty prescription bottle they found afterward. Martin didn't kill him directly, my mother said quietly. But he switched your father's heart medication. Just enough to cause. I ran to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left. When I returned, Vanessa was crying silently, and my mother looked 20 years older. We need to call the FBI, I said, my voice hoarse. If we do, Michael goes away for decades, my mother reminded me. And if we don't, we help a murderer escape justice. I slammed my hand on the table. He as good as killed Thomas. My phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. Time's running out, Ellen. Think of your son. Vanessa stood suddenly. I'm calling Michael. He needs to know what's happening. While she dialed, I faced my mother. Did you know? About Dad's medication? I suspected, she admitted. But I couldn't prove anything. Another text. Don't bother with Michael. He's already agreed to my terms. My heart stopped. What terms? The front door burst open and Michael rushed in, wild-eyed. Mom. Grandma. Don't listen to Jeffries. He's lying. Script part separator equals. Vanessa's face drained of color.
Michael?
How did you? The ankle monitor, I realized. You're violating your bail conditions just being here. I don't care, he said, panting. Jeffries came to see me first. He said if I helped him escape, he'd leave evidence that would clear me. My mother's eyes narrowed. And you believed him?
No.
Michael ran his hands through his hair. That's why I'm here. He's planning to frame all of us. The van, the airfield, it's a setup. He wants us implicated, so we can't testify against him. I sank into a chair. How deep does this go? Deeper than you know. Michael knelt beside me. Mom, I did steal. I did lie. But I swear I didn't know about Dad. When Jeffries told me just now, his voice broke, and for a moment, I saw my little boy again. The one who'd cried over a dead bird in our garden, who couldn't bear to cause pain. My phone rang. Goldberg. Mrs. Cooper, we have a problem, he said without preamble. The FBI just found $2 million in cash in a storage unit registered to you. What? I gasped. That's impossible. The paperwork has your signature. And Michael's. They're issuing a warrant for your arrest as a co-conspirator. After I hung up, I looked at my family, my criminal son, my secretive mother, my devastated future daughter-in-law. Jeffries is framing me, I whispered. My mother stood, suddenly looking fierce. We end this now. I'm not letting him destroy another generation of our family. She picked up her phone and dialed a number from memory. Henry? It's Margaret Wilson. I need that favor you've owed me for 30 years. Tonight. Michael touched my arm. Mom, there's something else you should know. About the money. It's not all gone. Vanessa's head snapped up. What? I hid some of it. Nearly $3 million. In an account only I can access. You lied to the FBI? I hissed. I was saving it as leverage. Against Jeffries. He swallowed hard. But now we can use it to pay back some of the victims. Script part separator equals. My mother's contact, Judge Henry Blackwood, arrived within the hour, bringing with him the district attorney and 2 FBI agents. My living room transformed into an impromptu war room as Michael laid out everything he knew about Jeffrey's operation. He has a private jet scheduled for midnight, Michael explained, spreading hand-drawn diagrams across my coffee table. The plan was to fly to Venezuela, then take a boat to a private island he owns off the coast. Agent Wilson, who'd first questioned me, leaned forward. "And you're willing to testify to all this?" "Yes," Michael said without hesitation. "And I can show you where to find the evidence that proves he masterminded everything." "That doesn't absolve you," the DA warned. "I know." Michael's voice was steady. "I'm prepared to face consequences for my part. But Jeffries needs to pay for what he did to my father." Vanessa, who'd been silent, suddenly spoke. "I found something else." She pulled up her phone. "I've been going through old photos from company events. Look at this." The photo showed Jeffries with his arm around Patricia Weber, the assistant who was supposedly testifying against Michael. "They're together," I whispered. "Not just together," Vanessa said grimly. I searched her social media. They've been married for 3 years under different names. The FBI agents exchanged glances. "This changes the operation," Agent Wilson said. My mother stood. "What do you need from us?" "Cooperation," the DA said simply. "And the van exactly as Jeffries requested." At 11:30 that night, I parked my catering van in the east lot of Riverside Mall, keys under the mat as instructed. Then I took my position in the surveillance van across the street, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. "Target approaching," crackled the radio. Through the monitor, I watched Jeffries stride confidently to my van, a briefcase in hand. He checked for the keys, then slipped inside. "Wait for it," Agent Wilson murmured beside me. "Let him start the engine." The moment the van's headlights flickered on, spotlights blazed from every direction. Script part separator ===. FBI agents swarmed the van like ants on sugar, weapons drawn. Jeffries never had a chance to escape. Through the monitor, I watched them drag him out, forced to his knees on the cold asphalt. "Martin Jeffries, you're under arrest for fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, and," Agent Wilson paused dramatically, "the murder of Thomas Cooper." "You can't prove anything," Jeffries snarled, his composed demeanor finally cracking. I stepped out of the surveillance van, unable to resist seeing his face when he realized who had trapped him. "Ellen," he spat when he saw me. "You stupid woman. You could have saved your son." "My son is saving himself," I replied, my voice steadier than I'd thought possible. "By telling the truth." As they led him away, Michael approached from another vehicle, flanked by agents. His eyes met mine across the parking lot, full of shame, regret, but also something I hadn't seen in years: honesty. The next morning dawned crisp and clear. We gathered at the courthouse for Michael's amended plea hearing. He'd agreed to testify against Jeffries in exchange for a reduced sentence. 10 years, Goldberg had explained, with possibility of parole after 4. 10 years. My son would be in prison until he was 42. "It's fair," Michael said quietly as we waited in the hallway. "More than fair, considering." Vanessa stood beside him, her engagement ring conspicuously absent. "I'm selling the apartment," she said. "Everything. We're going to pay back as much as we can."
"We?"
I asked, surprised. She nodded firmly. "I'm not abandoning him, Ellen. But we're starting over. Completely over." My mother sat straight-backed on the wooden bench. "The trust fund is ready," she announced. "Every penny Martin stole, plus interest, will be returned to the victims." Script part separator ===. My mother touched my hand. "Ellen, there's something else you should know." I tensed. "More secrets?" "The money I'm using to repay the victims, it's not just mine." She hesitated. "Your father left a significant insurance policy that Martin never knew about. We've been letting it grow all these years." "For what?"
I asked. "For you."
"For Michael." She smiled sadly. "Thomas always said there might come a day when Martin would try to hurt our family again. He wanted to make sure we had protection." Inside the courtroom, everything moved quickly. Michael's plea was accepted. Jeffries, denied bail, glared at us from across the room. When it was over, I stood on the courthouse steps, cameras flashing in my face. Reporters shouted questions. Mrs. Cooper, did you know about your son's crimes? Do you blame yourself? How does it feel knowing your husband was murdered? My mother squeezed my hand, and suddenly I knew what to say. My son made terrible choices, I said clearly. He's paying for them, as he should. But Martin Jeffries preyed on our family for decades, and today that ends. 6 months later, I sat across from Michael in the prison visiting room. He looked different, thinner, humbler, but somehow more at peace. The restitution fund is working, I told him. Mrs. Abernathy got her money back last week.
Good.
He nodded. And Vanessa? Starting law school in the fall. I smiled. She visits you? Every week. His eyes softened. We're not together anymore, not like that. But she forgives me. That's more than I deserve. As I drove home that afternoon, my mother called. The final papers came through, she said. Jeffrey's assets have been liquidated. The victims will get everything back, plus damages. It's really over then. It's over, she confirmed. We won, Ellen. Not a victory, I thought as I pulled into my driveway. Just justice finally served. That night, I sat on my porch with a glass of wine, looking at the stars. The same stars Thomas had taught Michael to name all those years ago. My family wasn't what I'd thought. My son wasn't the man I'd believed him to be. My mother had depths I'd never imagined. And I was stronger than I'd ever known. The truth had nearly destroyed us. But in the end, it had also set us free. Script part separator ===. As I watched the first snow of winter dust my garden, I realized something profound. The money's gone. My son's in prison. But I've found a strange kind of peace. Sometimes, losing everything is how you discover what truly matters. And sometimes, the most unexpected gift is simply learning who you really are. My name is Ellen Cooper. This is my story.
The end.